Hello there, and welcome back. Now today I'm really excited because I got myself into a deep rabbit hole of new music, and I kept on finding new artist upon new artist upon new artist who've all released new singles within the past 2 weeks to a month, and I am very, very happy. Now you may be thinking,
is he really going to try to talk about every single thing that he has found in the process of his research?
and no, that's unreasonable. But I noticed a bit of a pattern forming, and that's the topic that we're tackling today. In my search for new banging music, I came across a high number of British punk artists, each and every one of them sporting their own distinctive fancy and fluffy colours and all their lovely influences, but it got me thinking, there's a lot of new punk, and it's all really good. I shit you not. Any song that I name drop here in this video, I sat back and I was just banging my head to without even realising it, because I just enjoyed the music, which is why we're here. So without further ado, let us get some coffee into our system, get energised, and get that up-in-your-face attitude ready to go, and caffeine up. Lovely. And although I realise that wearing my stripy Disney shirt isn't very punky, I like it, and I like stripes, so moving on. So, full disclosure, I did notice when I first moved to the UK 2-3 years ago that there was, at least in the Brighton local scene, a resurgence of punk musicians and new bands forming sort of along those influences. And I started drawing my own conclusions. And I think 2020, as just a general year to set the scene for all these new bands which were starting to get together and explore new creative projects, really just kind of solidified all their mission statements and motivated a lot of new talents to the scene to make music. And in all the shit that it's brought, at least it did something good. So basically, we're looking at all the lovely ingredients of a year in which the government constantly tells people what to do, in addition to an overly saturated pop music scene, which at this point, I would argue, has descended into pure commercialism. And these two, my dear children, resolve dialectically into the emergence of punk. Yes! Again! I love me some punk. And to any of you who don't like punk, and may just be sitting there thinking, Fred, why are you so happy about this resurgence of punk if you're claiming that the pop scene is shit, and then punk comes as a response of the pop scene, but punk is shit, then what's the point? My point, my dear friends, is that we as humans thrive on conflict and contrarian natures. Whenever something gets too oversaturated or we've just bored with whatever the material is, we are going to respond to it. Maybe not well, although I think in this case, these new songs and these new artists are pretty banging, or maybe very, very well. But all the way back from ancient Rome, satire is an art form where we express ourselves like that. The Arbiter Elegantia, Petronius, I believe, is one of the key representatives of this aspect of human nature, and from him all the way to the modern day, it's still happening, it's not going to stop. As Friedrich Nietzsche says, time in a way is cyclical. It's always going to come back to the same thing. All this to say that Petronius was tasked with writing some fancy material and some cool literature, but in a distaste for the pop scene, he was like, oh, well, instead of writing a romantic novel where a man goes to meet a woman, my romantic novel is going to be about two men, and instead of being loyal to a fault, they're going to constantly cheat on each other in some sort of horrific antics that involve pirates, money, gambling, and so on and so forth. Basically, it's actually funny as shit. It's really good material. So if you've never read something like that and you want to read some more old shit, I recommend it, but point is, it's not gratuitous. It's highbrow. I'm a persuasive bastard. Where today, we're looking at an oversaturated hip-hop market dominated by auto-tune, 4-chord songs with a shitty marimba melody in the background, and the exact same beat copy-pasted on almost every music. On the pop side, Or, on the other hand, just some person who's good at singing, grabbing a guitar, strumming 4 chords, and getting paid £5 million because they're cool. And all these musical trends are always dominated by the record labels. The record labels, depending on each individual artist's contract, even today, record labels can have a big impact on the creative direction. And this reminds me of the 60s and 70s, why don't you? The first emergence of punk. We had an overly saturated pop market where everyone was trying to either be the Beatles or play the blues. So what happens? With record companies, who at the time had a lot more power, forcing these musical talents to steer themselves towards the specific direction they were going. And what came of it? Again, punk. The in-your-face attitude, the I don't give a flying fuck for what you want to do, and frankly, the sheer taste for difference, in a way, are all emblematic of the past and are all coming back now in this new, lovely, spicy context we've just gone over. And all we can hope is very much like the punk changed back in the day, the music scene, we can hope that this new emergence whips the modern scene into shape. Now you may be asking, that's an awful lot of shit to chat for just a morning's worth of listening to music, Fred. What did you find? And well, here's the answer to the question, actually. I'm glad you asked. Thank you. Fred from the future here, and do be warned, I'm about to name a flurry of musicians with their latest release and some of the pieces that I've listened to, so bear with me, feel free to pause the video, go listen to some of the tracks and come back, do whatever you want to, but I highly encourage you to go listen to the music, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did this morning. It's been amazing. So Squid released a new track called Narrator in cooperation with Martha Skye Murphy, who also is renowned for working with Nick Cave, and they put out a unique track named Narrator, which has a very slow, elegant beginning and then just degenerates into just a mix and match of so many layers of different types of melodies going on in the background with sort of the same core and the same motif that was going on for the whole song, with that lovely in-your-face vocal, which reminds me of Yard Act, who also released Dark Days as of recent, which is just dominated by a straight in-your-face, I'm just gonna chat shit, you're gonna listen, we're gonna have some music going on, and it kind of really works with me on reminding me, with Squid at the same time, of some sort of Devo reminiscent vocals, and I fucking love it. Just looking for something absolutely different to just go against the rhythm, and it's amazing. And plus there's one song where he just kind of talks about some girl who likes zoos because they remind her of a non-existing partner she made up to not be embarrassed. It's amazing. Then we have Scalping, with a band who just released a single called Deadlock, which is basically techno pump electronic music power chord flair, and it's really aggressive and it's really interesting. Not 100% my cup of tea, but even I liked it, so that probably means something. I found a band called The Lounge Society with a song called Cain's Heresy, which is just old school, lovely, familiar guitar tones, the in-your-face attitude. It's just, not gonna say pure punk, but it's just punk for the sake of punk, and I love that shit. And then there's a stunning 4-man ensemble, or well, I should say 4-women ensemble, named Loose Articles, who just released a single called Buses, and it's just a song about how they hate buses, and it's hilarious. It's just so deadpan and amazing, and the singer has that same anti-rhythmic deadpan delivery, reminiscent of Squid, which I mentioned earlier, which again then reminds me of Devo, which is just amazing. And to be fair, she does it with her own kind of style and timbre, which is really refreshing, and it's just original, and I like it. It's really cool. Plus, I understand the hatred of buses, but I mean, it's just a bus. I love it. It's so good. And a band named Folly Group released a song called Fashionista, which is maybe one of my favourites. It had so many layers to it, but still kind of keeping that century, crunchy punk core, which was always so attractive, in a way, to be honest. And finally, the band which kind of started my downward spiral into constant one, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, which is just a group called Anxious, which reminds me a bit of Blink-182 in a way. At least their latest release more specifically, New Shape, was very acoustic and a bit more chill than some of the other work that I heard. But I really liked the, that sort of early 2000s reinterpretation of punk. A bit more melodically driven instead of the whole power chord, power chord, power chord, power chord, blah, 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 blah. And if anything, I was quite interested, and I don't know, I just liked everything. I'm excited punk is back, finally. I was waiting for this, and I know I've named a lot of bands and new songs and new albums and this and shit and piss and whatnot, but I do encourage you to go listen to, if not all of them, just a couple of these artists, whichever ones seemed fancy to you. Because I'm just excited that there's so much new material, and it all seems to have come out in the past month, 2 weeks, and it's amazing. The UK punk scene is back, and hopefully it stays that way for a while. Because as we all know, if you see something happen in Brighton within 3 years, it happens everywhere. And I really hope you enjoyed having this little moment to realise punk's coming back with vengeance. Everyone's had enough of shit, and we're back. At the end of the day though, with all these bands, I still really enjoyed how I could constantly hear that Clash, Sex Pistols, traditional UK punk influence in the centre of everything, just in the backdrop. All these sort of diva reminiscent artists I've just spoke about, that's clearly Sex Pistols inspired. It's just evolved and just worked on within a new modern musical context. It's fucking great. I'm happy. So that being said, thank you very much for bearing with my bullshit today. I had a lot of fun just listening to a lot of new music today. I'd love to do all of them, but unfortunately, it's just going to take me so long to do each and every one if I dedicate an entire video to it, to the point where it's both going to defeat the purpose, and I'm just going to address it so late that the lifespan and the novelty of the song is just worn out. So I don't want to do something that is not going to be as entertaining as I can make it. Nonetheless, thank you very much for tuning in. I would very much appreciate popping your evers down below and subscribing to the channel. We're almost at 50. I'm excited. Expect something special to come soon. And honestly, that's kind of it. This has been a very fast and furious, here's a bunch of fucking music, here's some punk, but, I've channeled the in-your-face attitude today. Okay, well, that being said, thank you very much for tuning in. I will fuck off.